This is AAFD TV, the official streaming TV show for the American Association of Franchisees and Dealers, whose mission is to help our members achieve total quality franchising. Let's get today's show started. Welcome to AAFD TV, the official streaming show of the American Association of Franchisees and Dealers. I'm your host, Joan Bowling, and I'm glad you're joining us today. Today's conversation is about helping franchisees think proactively, how to recognize risk early, how to respond when something doesn't feel quite right, and how organizations and collective awareness can help prevent problems before they escalate. Our guest today is Richard Rosen, founding member of Rosen, Carroll, Salas Law Firm. Richard is a nationally recognized franchise attorney who focuses his practice on representing franchisees, franchisee associations, and independent business owners across the country. Rather than reacting only when disputes arise, Richard's work centers on education, strategy, and early intervention, helping franchisees understand their agreements, spot warning signs inside franchise systems, and make informed decisions that protect both their business and their long-term investment. With decades of experience in franchise law, Richard brings a thoughtful, practical perspective to what healthy franchise relationships look like and what franchisees can do when that balance starts to shift. Richard, welcome to AAFD TV. We're so glad you're here.
Really nice to be here. I appreciate it.
Let's start. You often talk about helping franchisees recognize risk before it becomes a problem. What are some of the early warning signs that franchisees should be paying attention to?
Well, you might find that there's a drop in sales. You might find there's a drop in profits. You might find that there's negativity amongst your staff. You might find an inability to make some of your payments. You may not be able to pay your rent or your other creditors. Those are the kinds of things that indicate that there are problems.
So all those little issues are popping up, and you need to be paying attention to them for sure. Many franchisees sense when something isn't quite right, but they hesitate to speak up. Why is silence so costly for franchisees, and what usually holds them back from raising those concerns?
Well, you might find that the franchisor misinterprets your silence to a disregard of the issue. So you always want to be communicating with the franchisor. There are reasons why there is silence. One may be the franchisee feels that if they interact with the franchisor is going to take steps against them. That may be one reason. Then there's another reason, and that is some people are just they're intimidated by interaction. They're afraid to interact. And so silence is a fear that they have of intimidation generally.
So communication is key on both sides of the fence, from franchisee and franchisor. That's a very important point. Thank you. Now, you have worked extensively with franchisee associations. How does collective awareness among franchisees begin to change the dynamics inside that franchise system, even before any formal action is taken?
Well, you're going to find that interaction between the franchisees is a positive. Working together, communicating with the franchisee is crucial. What I do is I tell the franchisees, everybody put down a list of your top 10 issues that you want to try to discuss. And the most important is number 1, and the 8th is number 8. And then we calculate everything. And so we find out what the group has, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we know what are the key issues, and the group knows what are the key issues. And we use those issues to interact and communicate between the franchisees as part of the association.
So you make a healthy assessment based on communication, and you take the pressure off the franchisees, which is fantastic. Now let's talk about the healthy franchise systems that really benefit everyone involved. How does a balanced franchisor-franchisee relationship, what does that actually look like? And what are the early signals when that balance starts to shift?
Well, there's communication. The most important thing is that there's interaction between the franchisor and the franchisees. And that is the way the communication and the positivity starts. What happens sometimes is that communication starts to diminish, or communication becomes over issues that are problems. The franchisor is wanting to change the system. The franchisor is not willing to go along with something that was already agreed to. So those are the warning signs that the relationship needs to be more directly interactive between the franchisor and the franchisees.
Okay. So from your perspective then, why is the work of organizations like AAFD so critical in helping franchisees move from isolated decision-making to informed collective strength?
Well, the key is communication. The more you communicate between the parties, then you know that you have something that is positive between the franchisor and the franchisee. The balance starts to shift when the communication becomes less frequent, and that can happen for a variety of reasons. But when that starts to happen, it's important that the franchisees continue the interactive communication with the franchisor, because that is the basis of a healthy relationship.
That is the basis of the healthy relationship for sure. If you could leave franchisees watching today with one insight or a mindset shift that would help them protect their business and their investment, what would that be?
Everything in life is a negotiation. If you're talking to your significant other about where you're going to go for dinner that night or what movie you're going to, that's a negotiation. Everybody negotiates, and franchising is no different. It's a negotiation. What most people do when they negotiate is they say, what do I want and how am I going to get it? That's not how I negotiate. I negotiate by saying, what does the other side want? The franchisor. What does the franchisor want? How can I get the franchisor what it wants and still get the franchisees what they want? That's the change in mindset, and that's what works. That's how franchisees get what they need and how they're protected.
I love that. And that does take the mindset shift so that you can have the two parties come closer together. And as you mentioned, Richard, it is all about communication. Richard, thank you so much for your insights today about how franchisees can better work with franchisors and the support that you provide. We appreciate you and your knowledge so very much.
And thank you for the opportunity.
To learn more about Richard Rosen and his work representing franchisees and franchisee associations nationwide, visit richardrosenlaw.com. That wraps up today's episode of AAFD TV. Thanks for watching, and be sure to share this conversation with your fellow franchisees, partners, and industry peers. I'm Joan Bowling, and I will see you again next time.